Gilead is not fiction. It never was.
Every episode decoded. Every system exposed.
Cheers to that, darling.
Yes, indeed.
So, wow, what a show. We're talking about Testament, right?
Yes.
Testament. Bravo, bravo, bravo to all the actors and actresses. They did a phenomenal job. What did you say?
Oh, yes. So far, everybody is doing a tremendous job.
And what?
Episode.
And what episode is this again?
Yeah, so we're in the episode 6 now of season 1.
All right, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off talking about how at the beginning, first of all, I want to say the cameramen, these area views are phenomenal. I mean, isn't it just beautiful? The area views of Canada?
Yeah, the area views of this episode, like the stadium and even some of the preparatory school and the preparatory school, it's just been born and amazing.
Yeah.
It really just captures the essence of the drama and, quite frankly, the dystopia that is taking place.
Yes. So let's talk about that. So it starts off with the girls going into the school, and they're showing how they're honoring Aunt Lydia.
Yes.
They got this statue of Aunt Lydia, right?
Yeah.
And Aunt Lydia is actually narrating this story, wouldn't you say, right?
Yeah, she's narrating this particular episode. Maybe.
Right. And it shows the girls how they go into their classrooms and everything. Oh, they're doing exercises, right? They're having gym.
Yeah, which I'm surprised. I didn't think they would have physical education in Gilead.
Yeah, but this is Testament though. So they had to kind of like improve, and this might have been Aunt Lydia's idea, to start having, because she called these her precious girls. And she feels they're precious because these children were actually born in Gilead. And so she sees it a little different than when she was working as the mentor and the leader and the boss and the mom and the guardian of the handmaids.
Yes.
So, but here she's allowing the girls to have a little bit more freedom. And the background of Aunt Lydia is that she was a teacher and she loves children, but she also loves being a boss, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, she definitely has a power complex about her.
Yes, but the girls are playing jump rope, and then all of a sudden we notice that Agnes/Hannah, June's daughter, seems to be a little upset about something, right?
Yes.
And so Becca says, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And she says, I don't want to talk about it. She's got like a slight kind of attitude, So Becca walks over to her to ask her what's wrong. And she says, "I'm in love." And then she says, "Becca, have you ever been in love?" And Becca goes, looking at her with those dreamy eyes, "No, I haven't. What does it feel like?" And we already know that Becca is in love with Agnes. We already know that she is suppressing her feelings for Agnes because we know what happens in Gilead if they find out that you love the same gender, don't we?
Yep.
So she's hiding it.
Yep.
So, but I will say this from a psychological way of thinking about this. She is a young girl, and all she's known is being with girls. So her best friend, she loves her best friend, and she could be getting it confused that her hormones, because girls, her hormones are raging and everything, so she could love her both ways. But even so, she better not tell anybody. I tell you that, right, Clay?
Yeah, because if she does, she's quite frankly will be in imminent danger, and we don't want Agnes on a wall in a colony missing a finger or a tongue or her eyes even.
Yeah.
She's even caught lusting. So she has to be real careful in these situations here. And that was very apparent. And she was pretty bold about her feelings about Garth, the guardian. She went to request with Aunt Lydia about having basically having Garth assigned to be her husband, or
Yeah.
to be her husband.
Yeah, so Clay had mentioned that we don't want her to get in trouble and executed on the wall. Now, the wall is something that was in Gilead. Gilead has a wall and they hang people. And we talked about that, right? How that came from Willie Lynch, who was a Barbadian, I believe, a Barbadian that came over to our country to help the Southerners who asked him to come over back in slavery time. And they asked him, what can we do to get law and order in this country to make these slaves, these Africans, who really don't understand English now? And what can we do to make them listen to us and perhaps even turn on each other? And Willie Lynch, that's where the lynching word comes from, suggested that he turn them against each other. How do we do that? We turn them against each other by complexion. We turn them against each other by age. We turn them against each other for Lord knows what else, right? So, and it worked, because to this day, that's how we got, fast forwarding history, the brown bag effect in Virginia, where we, African Americans, started turning on each other by complexion, not realizing they were actually doing what was done to them. I call it the curse. Because the same thing that you didn't want done to you, your ancestors, you started doing too. What a shame.
Yes, it's a shame indeed. And we definitely see that no woman is above the law or above any reproach in Gilead, including the aunts, like Ladala or Lydia and such. So
yeah,
no matter what you do, you're going to always be a woman in this place, in this world. And you're essentially are a second-class citizen. We have to remind ourselves.
Yes. And so we had looked up the history with women and women's rights, and I had actually said to Clayton from my women's history class that a lot of these things with kidnapping women and putting them in jail and throwing water at them and not feeding them because they were fighting for the rights of women. And that's why women today continue to fight. And not to talk about the Roe versus Wade being overturned, these are all the political issues that we still have today. Now, let's go back to the story. So, yes, so we, like Clay said, young girls had to be careful. Not just the girls, but anybody in Gilead could be hung on the wall or, as an example. But the children, the girls, have gotten so desensitized by death that whoever's on the wall, they have been convinced by the aunts that it was something that they did wrong, the people on the wall. They never questioned, like, perhaps maybe there was a mistake, so to speak. So with that being said, they show the girls talking amongst each other, but one of the Shulamite, played by actress.
Yeah, Shulamite, Rowan Blanchard.
Yes, I love her. Is she not doing an awesome job?
Yeah, I like Shulamite in this show.
Oh my God, she's doing
She's a good character, and the actress who portrays her does a very good job as well.
Very good job. And she's so believable. So for some reason, she's always getting the information. She seems to be wiser than the other girls,
I agree.
Even though she's the only one out of the two, I think, that's left that has not got her cycle yet, which makes her very sad, because she's upset that Hulda, who got the tea, she gave her the tea. She only gave her a few sips of this mushroom tea that was something that she had got from her cousin, this recipe. And the girl's period came down, and so she's upset about that. But there's still, she does her heart. She's like, she gives Holden her hanky. I believe it's a handkerchief, isn't it? And she says, here. She goes, oh, you made this? And he says, no, it was for me, but I'm giving it to you because you're going to be getting married. So I'm going to give this to you. And she's like, oh, okay. So that was like a tender moment. So, but anyway, they find out because the aunt comes, she has a sad look on her face, and the aunt realizes she had got the information that Commander Judd's wife again had a third miscarriage. And so she brings that information back, right?
Correct.
And the girls are upset, and they're hugging each other and crying because they've been conditioned to believe that their sole role on this planet is to be a wife and a mother and to reproduce children in Gilead. And so they were praying and everything. And so Aunt Lydia was walking by, and interesting enough, I'm going to fast forward a little bit about how Aunt Lydia seems to be having some type of power struggle with
maybe some guilt, depending on how you feel.
Vidala.
Yes.
Her and Vidala seem to be having some type of uncomfortable power struggle. I believe that Aunt Lydia, being wise, realizes that perhaps Vidala might take her place, even though she's actually trained her to take her place.
Right.
She still wants to be the head. After all, she sees a statue every day that makes her feel like she's God, a goddess or whatever. So, but Vidala sometimes makes statements, and Aunt Lily always cuts her down. And this last time says, "Hey, why don't you go just get her certified for because she had a period." So Vidala was really upset about that. I could tell by her look on her face that she was not a happy camper, right? And so Vidala actually says to Commander Judd, she said something like, "I'm so unhappy." No, what did she say? Do you remember what Vidala said?
Right, yeah. She said that she felt that.
She said something to Commander Judd.
That if you basically need a replacement for Aunt Lydia, I'm your girl.
No. I mean, when he came in looking sad, she said something like, "Oh, the girls are being taken care of." Something she said that made Commander Judd just look at her. And it's almost like he didn't really believe her.
Well, what she said wasn't really assuring.
He wasn't feeling it. So what Aunt Lydia did, looked at him like, she's trying to take my place. So let me go over here and, really manipulate and kiss up to Commander Judd. She used one of those Bible verses, and Commander Judd looked at her and said, "Yes, Aunt Lydia," under his eye, and then she says, "God will heal you basically from this sorrow." And he was like, she says, "I suggest that I go get you a handmaid." And he's like, No, I don't want no handmaid. She says, "Well, when you're ready, I can, talk to some people and I can arrange it for you." And he's like, "Okay, Aunt Lydia," sort of like that. She says, remember Aunt Lydia said this, "You can trust me."
Yep, she did say that.
And he looked and said, "Yes, Aunt Lydia." And for the first time, I felt, because he was already humbled and sorrowful for his wife losing his third child, that he actually believed Aunt Lydia, that she was really being sincere. And I believe in my heart that Aunt Lydia really wasn't sincere as much as she was like, "I'm not going to let Vidala come and take my place." What do you think, Clay?
Yeah, I really feel that there's resentment, which we kind of find out later. Well, not kind of. We do find out later in this episode as to why there's this brewing or this simmering tension between Vidala and Lydia, like we've all have wondered and speculated in our previous reviews of this show this season so far. But Vidala wants Lydia out the way. She wants her essentially retired or displaced or replaced. So she's trying to look for every angle in. But we'll find out why or the origins of this.
Yes. So moving right along, let's talk about how Agnes / Hannah comes to Aunt Lydia as Aunt Lydia is actually sitting down, and she's like, "Aunt Lydia, gracious Aunt Lydia. Well, he's praising her, really.
I have a request. Can you hook me up with Garth? Well, she didn't say it that way,
Yeah,
but she might as well should have.
And she goes, Aunt Lydia, I have a, what did she say? What was the word she used?
A request.
A request. He goes, Aunt Lydia goes, request? Who are you talking to? I'm like the queen of everything. What do you mean?
This is
request.
This is
you
like
don't
marrying.
request me. I am the one who. And she goes, well, I graciously, blah blah. She used all these big words, more or less kissing up. Would like to speak to you. And she's like, okay, sit down. And she says, well, you know, my guardian, Garth. Remember how he saved everybody on the bus? I know he's of age and he's up for being a commander, but I would like to know if you could make it basically exception and he could be my commander. And Anthony, they're like, you think you should, don't you? I know what you're doing, but I think it's kind of cute. You see how Helen kind of had a little smirk on her face? She goes, I'll think about it. And she's like, thank you, my wonderful, gracious, blessed Aunt Lydia, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, go to class because we know that girls that are late or lazy and blah, blah, blah are women. So go to class and be on time. She's like, thank you so much, Aunt Lydia.
Right. This became like Married at First Sight Gilead edition, essentially. But we still don't know Garth's background too much. I've heard or read somewhere that he is basically an agent, if you want to say that, or he's fronting or pretending to be a guardian because he was fighting. He's from Texas, and he escaped to Canada after fighting off the Gilead forces when Gilead tried to take over the state of Texas in the United States, and that stronghold broke down. So he fled to Canada and is trying to infiltrate the inner workings of it. So I want that more confirmed, but that's what they're saying. That comes from the book, which we have not read. But this shows us making it seem like he's just a Gilead born and raised who just wants to defect, from his government and this nation, and is somehow working with Mayday or the Canadians or something.
Yes. So on that note, we'll be right back. Okay. Hey, we're back. And so as we were talking about Commander Judd's wife, Penny, having a miscarriage. Who's the actress played by that? Let's look at it play. Who's the one that plays Penny, you know?
Yeah, so the girl who plays Penny, if I can just find her, where is she at?
Ooh, well, anyway.
Well, we'll find her. Just give me a moment here.
Yeah, we just want to give everybody their credit because they all did such a wonderful job. But anyway, so Aunt Lydia,
Ellen
Olivia, was played by Penny. So now we look, and Aunt Lydia and Vidala and all the other ladies are sitting around a table, and they've come up with a decision to choose the commanders for these girls. And how you can see that there's some type of dissension or something, some type of resentment or something, there's some friction, something is not right with Aunt Lydia and Vidala, because when she suggests somebody for Agnes, Aunt Lydia goes, no, for one of the girls, Becca. And Lydia goes, oh, so you're going to choose this man that tried to make one of my precious girl, Becca, drunk, huh? Remember that?
Yeah. So
they were choosing these commanders, and we noticed something. When were the ladies able to have cognac? Like, looked like they were having some cognac.
Right. That part's very confusing to me because my impression was that in Gilead, you couldn't drink or smoke unless you were in a part of the Jezebels or the Jezebel Club.
Yes, it's like
or whatever. But yeah, this is very inconsistent.
Right. And so my theory to that was because the New Testament, this is going real deep, was not as strict as the Old Testament in a different way. They had new rules, some were softened, right?
Correct.
So I think that they allowed the aunts in privacy, whichever way you want to say it. The British say privacy.
That's how the Brits say it.
And and Old English probably. But they can have a little bit of something on their spare time when there's no one around. But so they're choosing the commanders for these girls. And I'm going to tell you something. That was uncomfortable because we got these young girls that's not even 18 to 20 yet being chosen for these old geezers, so to speak. And this has not really changed. What I mean by that is that even in today's society, even though women do not agree with this, we still have been conditioned in society to feel that it's okay, even if we don't think it's okay. For example, if a woman is with a man that is younger, it's considered diva or whatever. It's not as acceptable. Why? Because we have been societal conditioned from a long time ago. So you could have an old man humping on a young girl, but you can't have an older woman with a man. You see what I'm saying? There's definitely an imbalance in this. And these are what we call unspoken rules. But anyway, just a thought that makes you want to vomit. But
yeah, it's definitely very unsettling, for sure.
Very uncomfortable. But moving right along, let's talk about now Aunt Lydia reliving the past. How this all came into play with this new utopia. Yeah, really, utopia society, right? Have I left anything out with the girls? I think I've covered it. We've covered everything with the girls. We want to get into the past now.
For sure.
Right. And the reason why we want to talk about that, we're going to talk about why Vidala and Aunt Lydia, there's something between those two. It's an unspoken thing. So let's start with going all the way back when Aunt Lydia was a teacher, and so was Vidala and other teachers. And they were in the classroom, and it was a day off. The kids had a day off, and Aunt Lydia goes, "Okay, who used up all the coffee?" And no one said anything. Now, there was a principal, I believe he was a principal, someone of authority, sitting down, and he kind of smiled because he heard the women talking. But there were some men, soldiers, outside the door.
They're guardians. What we call guardians.
No, but I'm talking about the ladies thought then. They didn't know all that then. They thought maybe there was a terrorist attack or something, and they were coming to protect them. Remember?
You could make that argument.
Yeah. So they didn't know there was some, like this was not against them instead of for them, right?
Right.
So like a SWAT team, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So he says, "Oh, let me go and see what this is all about." He goes to the door to talk to me. You can see him out there talking to him, and he goes like, "No, no, no," kind of like a "No, no, no, you can't come in here." And they just shot him dead right there. And the women was looking at them like, "Oh my God," right? It was frightening. And that was the beginning of hell.
Yes,
like real
indeed.
hell. And so you saw these soldiers, these men coming in with, like rifles. These are innocent women. So why do you need rifles? All this stuff, right? And they take all these women down to this stadium, like this big ballpark, like where they have concerts too, And they take them down there. I believe it was a place where they do tennis because like a tennis court. Did you see? We'll get to why we think it was a tennis court. The ground, remember?
It was a tennis court.
Yeah.
It was
so
about,
that's probably what we'll do.
like Wimbledon or something.
Wimbledon, yes,
or
yes.
US Open.
Right. So all these ladies are crying and they're screaming. These men are like, "Come on, get over here. Give me your cell phones. Give me your jewelry. Give me your money. Give me your pocketbooks." And the women are like, "What the hell?" And they're taking all their possessions. It felt like Holocaust.
Yeah.
It reminded me of some of the
camps.
concentration camps from documentaries that I've seen of Holocaust. It was frightening. And they took everything from these women. The women still didn't know what's going on, but they had a file on everyone, which tells us this had to be planned for years. This is not something you do in 1 year. This is something, it's got to be planned a long time to have a file on everybody, correct?
Correct.
And so the women are crying and it's frightening. And they're snatching out women. And to make an example, just to put that fear into them, this is an idea that I got from the Holocaust and from slavery. Because what they did was they took all the women that they thought were homosexual, gays, and all the women who they felt were masculine or something about them. They had a file on them, bottom line. And they took them all out right there in the center, like a tennis court, right? That's why we feel it was like a tennis opening. And they shot them dead, just like that. Shot them dead. They said something about the divine eye for women, these people, women who have sinned. That scared the hell out of all women, and the young women and the older women. Everybody was crying. They were frantic after that. They realized then that something
They could be next.
They could be next. There was an overtake, and they realized then that this was the beginning of the end of whatever life they had. So, and that's what they kept showing over and over again. Then they gave them bread and water. That's another side. Just a slice of bread and water.
Yeah.
And they're sitting up in this hot stadium and they're like crying and they're just taking women, take it to this place, take it to that place. I got really afraid for the woman that was pregnant. Remember the woman that was pregnant? He says, "You're so-and-so and you're pregnant. Do you have a husband?" She says, "No, I have a partner." I was like, Lord Jesus, why did you say that? Take her over there to the storehouse, the box house. I'm thinking, they'll keep her and take the baby and then kill her or whatever, throw it to the colony, you know. Aunt Lydia is...
But they were just collecting cell phones and everything was just confiscated. We don't really know how long they were sitting out there for. It looked like it was days on end. And you can clearly, they had to have been musty, stink, or had to use the bathroom on themselves. I don't know if they were letting them have bathroom breaks. I mean, if not, then that place really would have been reeking of human feces and human urine. Because, I mean, I'm just being realistic.
We're being realistic because in the book, they were sitting in their own feces and urine. And for the Testament. Now, I haven't read it, but shout out to Twisted Life. She gave us the backstory on that whole thing. And I'm almost curious now to read this book after watching hers, because she was so detailed in it. Now, Clay and I had talked about this because I have seen lots of different reviews.
Right.
And shout out to all the recaps, because let me tell you something. To sit down and watch these shows and give you a recap of how you interpret it and whatever, I think that's wonderful. Because we know what it takes, right?
For sure, we do.
And you have that equipment and everything. But I will say, I think that some people are removed from, I don't know if they're removed, but they just don't want to talk about the ugliness of this. Because only a few people are addressing the ugliness of this. I hear everybody talking about the girls and all stuff, and they're kind of glossing over the execution. And I feel this should be addressed because this is political warfare. This is not something that cannot happen. It has happened. And you all know it won't happen. Well, you could say that about the insurrection too, right?
Yep.
So for me, I don't see anything to kiki and smile about. Okay? Because this is history and it's politics. And we as women, we as Americans, we have to understand, and also people of color, that voting and being conscientious about politics, don't think someone else is supposed to vote for you. You've got to go to the polls for yourself, and it starts from the local level. That's all I'm saying on that one. I don't want to make this a political thing, but this is not the key about
Friendly
this.
Reminder to check your election data at your county board of elections and check your polling place.
I can understand we want clicks and views and numbers and everything for the algorithm and stuff, but we also have to be very thoughtful and conscious of being a woman, being maybe a woman of color, even Caucasian woman. It really doesn't matter. You're a woman. Because I tell you, in Gilead, they didn't really give a damn what color you were. You're a woman, you got a vagina, you in trouble. That's the bottom line. So I don't want to just kind of gloss over that, because this is very serious. And in other countries, even in African countries and maybe indigenous countries, the rights of women are not the same. So we need to make that point clear. We can enjoy this. Shout out to the directors, the producers, and the actors and actresses for doing an awesome job. But I also am thankful that you make us think.
Yes.
Because we need to think about these things. Okay. Yeah, I had to say that.
For sure. And it's also important to know the backstories, because that's how you know what direction this show's going. And even understanding the original Handmaid's Tale series.
Yeah.
There was a lot of backstories in that. And I understand a lot of people don't want to look at the trauma or the dystopian part of it, but if you're going to watch this, you have to watch it in its full totality. Yes, for a lot of the newcomers, they like the whole Bridgerton style dance last week, but this is not a Bridgerton show. This is supposed to be a dark show. So we have to keep that in mind when we're reviewing this. And it's cute and all that. We kind of make these love story subplots like with Nick and June from The Handmaid's Tale, or now they're trying to do that with Agnes and Garth. But this is a dark show.
This is a dark show.
Dark, creepy show. We have to remember that.
These women were not, this was not a romantic thing. These women were getting raped against their will at an early age. They didn't have an education, nor were they going to get one.
Right. Their education was by way of the aunts.
Right.
That is the education.
Yeah. Basically, you are just a slave with a fancy name and a nice house to live in. But hey, don't get it twisted. This was not something to romanticize. I think it's so kiki and cute, because it wasn't. It wasn't. And I'm going to tell you something. Let's talk about the execution. Let's talk about Aunt Lydia.
Yes.
How Aunt Lydia is called in. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so Aunt Lydia is brought into this owner's box that they have in most stadiums, especially in big stadiums.
She wakes up first and she sees the dollar's gone.
Yes.
And this lady goes, I'm sorry about what happened to your friend. And she's like, me too. And then go ahead.
But then she's reflecting about how that's when she decided that having friends in Gilead was not a wise fate, because it could end up breaking her heart at the end of the day.
Well, let's take that even deeper than that, Clay, because even today in society, I have pets, so I know what I'm talking about when I talk about looking from a perspective of animals. It's eat or be eaten. That's the society we live in. Eat or be eaten, survive or not survive. That is why you have levels in your job. That's why you got people hating on each other, getting jealous of each other. That comes from fear. Fear that someone's going to get ahead of you, or take something away from you, and so you're like, well, maybe I better take them down, or maybe I get a group to take them down. This comes from an inner fear of feeling that you won't get what's due to you. So it's kind of like, I use that analogy about the abortion and abortion clinic. Oh, yeah, these people, they want to have abortions and we got to do something. So what do? They go bomb the abortion clinic. So now you become a murderer too. First you were saying that you didn't want these women to murder their babies, unborn child, but then you become the murderer. So it's kind of that same analogy, if you can look at it from that perspective. So when Aunt Lydia gets called in and Commander Judge says, hey, I see that you had an abortion. And that is considered in our so-called new regime death. She says, that happened to me when I was very young. I see you're 58 years old. She says, yeah. I see you've never been married. She goes, no. He goes, Uh, so she goes, let me explain. And then that's when she starts to think. She's narrating. In her mind, she's thinking, I'm not really worried about the soldiers as much as I'm worried about Commander Judd, because he's going to have the most authority. So my job as a woman is to manipulate him and make him think that he's got all control. Okay? So she says to him, well, why should you waste your time and bother with trying to not only separate the women and figure out where they belong? This is a lot for you. When you need me, I was a teacher and I love children. And I feel that I agree with you. He said, yeah, you're just saying you agree, but you don't agree with this whole thing. She goes, no, listen. I believe that today, and remember she said in the narration, she says, I believe that today they're spoiled, they feel entitled, they have lost respect and morals. And I believe that if I were in charge, basically that's what she said. She didn't say it to him, but she meant it. I could help you turn this around and guide these young people into being what you want to be done in the biblical sense. And he's like looking at her like, okay. So he didn't say anything, but I noticed that when she goes back to the locker room. Let's talk about that soup and bread. What does that represent to you, Clay?
Yeah, the soup and bread represented that they were going to basically spare her, at least for this particular moment, because they gave her chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side. Well, there was no soda.
But a bread.
And they gave her, it looked like a fresh change of clothes.
Yeah, they take a shower in the locker room.
So they realized, okay, maybe this woman is on to something, that we can use her to our advantage.
To our
vice
advantage,
versa.
right.
Let's just be real.
Yeah. And so when she takes a shower and they give her clean clothes, when she comes out, he goes, oh, you look nice and clean.
No kidding.
No. And she's looking at him like, yeah. Well, hey, so, walk with us here. They walk out. She walks out and she sees these women coming out frightened to death with blindfolds and their hands down. They're going to be executed. She can see that. She's thinking, oh my God. And he says, here. And she looks at him like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, please, God, no. He goes, you're either with us or you're against us. And then all of a sudden, there's Vidala. They take her blindfold off. Aunt Vidala, back in the day when her name was Vivian. And he goes, okay, prove it. Here's the gun. He never said that Vidala did anything wrong. He wanted to see if she would shoot her. Now, there's a lot of theories about this. Some people saying, oh, that doggone Aunt Lydia, blah, blah, blah. I agree with you 100%. Aunt Lydia is a piece of work. Because if you've seen Handmaid's Tale from the beginning, you would see Aunt Lydia. Oh, that's such a long story. But if you want to know, I'm going to tell you to watch Twisted Life. I'm giving her the shout out because she breaks it down. But anyway, so he's like, okay. Now, some people are like, how? I can't believe Aunt Lydia did it. But think about this. This goes back to that what I said about animals are either a prey or a predator. And that is human nature. You either want to live or you want to die. That is human nature. And so for people to criticize her making that decision, well, Aunt Lydia was like, look, I ain't ready to die. So let me see how I can work this in my favor. A lot of people don't understand that. But if it was you, what would you do? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if it was Vivian and the roles was reversed, you don't think Vivian would take that gun and shoot Aunt Lydia? I tell you. What do you think, Clay?
Oh, she definitely would have.
Definitely. Why? What do you think, Clay?
Because you had to go back to original survival skills. And certain groups, certain demographics, cultures believe in eat or be eaten, especially in Asian culture.
That's right. And you don't sit up here and, Asian, but that's not. Look, I have Asian friends, so I know what I'm talking about because I've lived with them as far as hanging out with them, eating with them. I know their culture, okay? I'm from New York. I know their culture, okay? And they do what they are told. They're not raised like Americans, and even though they may be American, be in America, their parents raised them differently. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Queen.
There's nothing all. We can always say there's some exceptions to the rule, even with us. But if the tables was turned, I guarantee you, almost to a T, that Aunt Vidala, which was Vivian back then, would definitely want to survive. Because the first thing she said was, please, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, don't shoot me. So that tells me that if it was in reverse, she don't want to die. So she's going to do exactly what she do. Because one thing about Asian culture, we know that they are into combat. They are into listening to rules and regulations. They do their way different from our way. And there is no judgment here. Every culture is different. So it's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's about whether you want to live or die. That's really what it's about, really. We want to know the bottom line on that. Do you want to live or die? Some people say, no, I want to die, go down with the ship. And other people are like, bump that. I'm going to find a way to live, and I'm going to make this work for me. Perfect example, going back to slavery. The people in the house versus the one in the field. Okay? The ones in the house is thinking, hell no, I don't want to be out in the field picking no cotton. I'm going to make this work for me. Right? That's just life. It's not about good or bad, right or wrong. It's life. It's about survival of the fittest. That's what it's about, isn't it?
Absolutely, Queen B.
So, we can all sit here and have our discussion, but go back in your history books. And for the young people who are removed from this, like my son, who is in his early 20s, college age, he was not really privy to understanding Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Black Panthers, and then you got those cults like what was that thing with the guys? Everybody killed himself. The George, no, what was that?
Black Lives Matter. Are you referring to?
Yeah, the one that everybody killed themselves. It was Jim Jones. Jim Jones. Yeah. We're talking about cults and stuff too. So we're talking about whether you want to call it a cult, whether you want to call it a gang, whether you want to call it leaders all working together, whatever. The point is, if you believe in something, you're going to follow it. You want to be a part of it, right?
Correct, for sure.
So my son, he did not get all that history lesson that I got, or you got. So therefore, he might be removed from the execution and stuff because he's used to video games. So he don't feel it. So a lot of these people who are doing videos and keying not really getting the full severity of this because they don't want to. They want to gloss over because they don't want to think about it. But it's real. It's real life. Just like you got those games. It's real life. So don't key and gloss over just to get clicks and views. That's okay too. No judgment here. But at least understand where the history comes from. Okay, I had to put that out there. Because I'm enjoying the show. Because I love movies and series, and I get turned off from the actors and actresses and their craft. I love theater and entertainment. But I also love history. Because my background is teaching. I can't help it. As well as journalism. But I also love politics. Like Clay loves politics right there.
For sure. So the episode ends with Aunt Lydia reflecting back on her life in Gilead and since. And it exposes that she is writing a series of journal entries in his private journal. Because ants in this world, surprisingly, are the only class of women that can actually write and presumably read. Obviously, you saw the file folders. Now, I think the original Handmaid's Tale might kind of differ because their file folders in the original Handmaid's Tale just had pictures, but...
Let's talk about that. First of all, we know in Handmaid's Tale, Serena actually got her finger cut off. And we talk about an educated woman from a so-called white higher middle class, not middle, higher upper class family, Serena, who became, what would you say, like a women's, a feminist, conservative
she was a white,
feminist.
To Command of Waterford.
Yeah. But before they became in Gilead, Serena was definitely an activist, definitely for women's rights, definitely also kind of borderline conservative. She's a little eclectic there, but Serena, June convinced Serena, who is actually Hannah / Agnes, played by Chase Infinity. She actually convinced Serena, June did, Elizabeth Moss, to go and talk to the commanders. And when Serena went up there, and her husband was a commander, he sold out his own wife, and her finger was cut off because she read to the men. And what's really ironic about this is that this is his wife, and he already knows how highly educated his wife is, right? So it's kind of ridiculous. So I found that kind of confusing in Testament with the women Aunt's reading, because we know that Serena's finger was cut off.
Along with them smoking and drinking.
Yeah. Now, in Handmaid's Tale, there was not a woman try to smoke and drink in Handmaid's Tale, they're going to be hanging on the wall, wouldn't you say?
For sure, unless they were in Jezebels.
Jezebel was for all the women. They chose the younger women that they felt was attractive and whatever kind of personality they had to be like prostitutes. Now, we find this out later. Like they had this Jezebel kind of place where the men, they would sneak and go and smoke and drink and sleep with the girls that they felt were the sinners, even though being hypocrites because they're sinning. But they thought it was okay because we're men. Now, biblically, if you so into your religion, you would know biblically that you weren't supposed to be sinning either. But they justified it, right?
For sure.
So those are the things that are a little different that in Testament. So what do you think about that?
But there's a lot of rewriting of the book, or kind of rewriting history as it relates to the Handmaid's Tale universe.
Yeah.
But to conclude this episode, Aunt Lydia is saying to herself that she's going to keep this journal handy, and she's going to keep on.
So it's like a diary, right?
She's going to keep on doing that, but she's not going to expose anybody, at least quite yet. But she's going to keep an eye on everything still.
Is that what she's saying about the diary?
Yes.
Which is very interesting, wouldn't you say?
It is, because remember in the original Handmaid's Tale series, there was a whole bunch of collection of journals that June was able to get, and she was able to get them over to Nick, and Nick gave them over to Luke, and they didn't really go anywhere. It didn't really...
You didn't say who Nick was.
Well, they should know. Anybody who's watching this should know.
Some people didn't watch Handmaid's Tale. They only watched Testament.
We only got so much storage time.
Right.
So they go Google's free on Beyonce's internet.
Basically, Nick was sort of like Garth, right?
Right.
And he was with June, and Serena made June sleep with her.
Right. Just watching it. Every episode of season Handmaid's Tale is available on Hulu.
What was Nick considered there?
He was an eye.
An eye, which is a little kind of like a guardian. And so that's how June got pregnant with the other baby, which we'll talk about later. But
all episodes of Handmaid's Tale are now streaming on Hulu, so otherwise we'll be here all night.
And that started from 2017, right?
Yes.
But that's really what happened. So Aunt Lydia is really narrating this episode and gives the history of Aunt Lydia. But anybody who knows Aunt Lydia from Handmaid's Tale would be scared to death of her. Aunt Lydia looks really good now, but back then she was maybe looked like she was 20 pounds heavier. She had dark hair. She was really mean and strict. But we also know that was because she was forced to be mean and strict. But also she was kind of mean even before she became Aunt Lydia, because it shows how she actually got this woman's children taken away, a child taken away from her, because she got married to a woman, for the woman putting makeup and doing her hair, to go out with one of the men at the school, And the man kind of rejected her. He didn't really reject her. He just wasn't ready to sleep with her. And then the man took his rejection and got man called up the authorities to come and take the woman's child away because she knew the woman was a single parent, even though the woman was just trying to help her get a man. That's how mean Aunt Lydia is.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't like Aunt Lydia. I don't think she is redeemable. I think she is who
she is. She's got psychological damage. And she has made everyone else have psychological damage, from all the handmaids down to Testament. These people are afraid of Aunt Lydia, and they're trying to change her to make her a little softer. And I don't really see her as soft. I see her as maybe a little bit more patient because she's older, if that makes any sense.
Correct, yep.
But not really softer. And I think she might feel that now that she's got a stature, she can lighten up a little bit. What do you think?
For sure. We'll see how her story continues to unfold. A lot of people are insisting that she's part of Mayday. I don't think she's part of it at all. This episode proves
she will
that.
Sell out anybody and anything, even Mayday. Okay, I would be shocked if she was part of Mayday, because Aunt Lydia was going to be hung.
Right, which I think she even forgot about that.
Yeah, Aunt Lydia was going to be hung because she had helped the handmaids escape, because she started to feel soft at one point. And I think it was Janine that convinced her to please let them go because of her child and get them to cross over to Canada. Aunt Lydia softened up for that one moment and got caught and was going to be hung. And she had to beg them not to hang her, right?
Yeah. Then she ended up giving back Janine's baby to Janine and June, and then Aunt Lydia went back to being Aunt Lydia, which she defaulted back to her factory settings.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like this iPhone. That's
Aunt Lydia loves power.
Yeah.
And the reason why she loves power is because she never had children, she never had a husband, she don't have any family. So what does she have but power? And that's what keeps her going. Her power is her orgasm. Her power is her orgasm. That's what makes Aunt Lydia happy. Bottom line. Let's have some serious.
Sure.
But anyway, anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Next week.
Next week. So I am Queen D.
And this is Clay D.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you forgot to say like and share. And yeah, whatever. Like and share with your friends. Thank you for listening. And you can see us on YouTube under what, Clay?
Under Lorraine and Moi, or See the Susan 39.
We appreciate you. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye-bye.